I'm just. I'm just going to speak briefly and then turn it over to the respective department heads. So every 6 years, we do a capital improvement plan. Our last capital improvement plan that was voted in by the delegation expired last year. So this is for this year and the next 5. We perhaps would have waited until the budget came. However, some of the things that we have here are pressing needs, and we'd like to get started on them this year for sure. So I'm not gonna do any of the presentations. The department heads are gonna do the presentations themselves. You'll notice in the large document that you got, one of the documents will show you, we split it up into Riverside portion and the county portion, because Riverside portion is fully reimbursable by Medicaid. It's built into our daily, now, let me be really clear. It's not like they hand you a check. They build it into your daily rate over the life expectancy of the project. So I will, I just wanted to make sure you knew that. So anything to do with Riverside, which we do count most of MIS, as part of Riverside's operation, that's all reimbursable by Medicaid. So I think Paul's first. You're up, sir.
I want to ask a question about that, though.
Yes,
Is that, so the county will front the money,
yes, sir.
and is the payback on like a simple,
You know, the payback's like your IRS depreciation.
yeah,
Yes, sir. So if it depreciates over 5 years or 10 years or whatever the IRS code says for depreciation is the same way in which Medicaid reimburses you, and it's interest included.
oh, interest, you know what that happens to be?
Well, I only know what the current bond rating is between 3 and 3.5%. We've looked at various bond issues that have gone out over the last month, and they've been between 3 and 3.5% for the rating for similar
Yeah.
bond ratings to us.
Yeah, so the whole thing is reimbursed,
Everything that has to do with Riverside is reimbursable,
including the interest.
including interest included. Now, we can't put that in this document, you know, we can't tell you how much interest, because we don't know what the interest rate is, but it will go up the amount of the interest.
Thank you.
I got a question. Too.
Yes, sir.
Before we start, a question out of ignorance. So, I know we have the overall operating, capital improvement
Yep.
plan. Do you have it broken out by year? So we see how it fits in each subsequent budget? In other words, like, I think we're in fiscal 24?
It actually will be one budget item.
Okay.
It won't be, in other words, we would borrow the money, whatever was approved, and then we would do it. So it won't appear again in the budget.
So
What will appear in the budget is what we've accomplished and the amounts. In other words, we'll give that as a side report.
yeah, or the bond payment, right?
That, correct. The
Yeah.
bond payment will appear in the budget.
So it's not, you're not fitting it actually within the budget, if, other than the bond payment?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, thank you for coming in today. Thank you.
So Paul, just tell people who you are and what you do.
Paul Kresge, Director for IT. And some of the projects that we are looking to replace or upgrade. One is our wireless system. Currently, our wireless system is outdated. It's end of life on the controller, and no longer can we get upgraded software for this. So the encryption, we can improve that, and the security starts going downhill. Also, we have a greater demand on the wireless, especially at the Westwood, because residents are becoming more and more electronic friendly. Family bringing in tablets or looking at movies, so there's a lot of demand for the wireless. So the wireless to replace, we did do a. Sure.
Paul, while you're looking that up, trying to make doubly sure. So Kelly, do we have anybody from the public on the Zoom And if you started the recording.
It started and nobody on.
Okay.
So for the wireless, we're looking at 200 access points. And what we did through the entire county is they came through floor by floor, looked at where we could put the access points, and then that would show the coverage to make sure that we had coverage for everywhere. We don't have to do controls for this wireless system because it's a feature that we can incorporate right into our firewall. So we save that cost. It's the newest technology, so it should last. It's a tri-band. Typically wireless is a 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. I don't know if you've ever heard those terms, but now the FCC's released the 6. So in the future, there's going to be other bands out there and this will take care of that. Okay, that cost was 110,000. Second project is to upgrade our phone system. Not the entire phone system, but just the piece where we hand off to First Light, to the fiber. I don't know if anyone from this area remembers the company Bayring.
Yeah.
Been gone for a long time. We still have that equipment. And it runs on T1 lines to hand off. We're trying to get rid of that and go CIP, which is where we can be on fiber. The cost to make that upgrade is 136. The equipment currently is, it's so old, they don't make it anymore. So when we have a problem with a part going down, the last couple of times, we're down for a week or more with no external phone calls.
Is Bayring out of business?
Bayring's out of business. They sold to Oxford for a period of time, and then that was sold to First Light, so it's been a number of companies.
Oh,
Third project, I said 136. Third project is we're gonna want to replace our core switches. This is in one room, it's kind of in the server room. And these switches are these switches are at end of life. Same thing, the equipment's gone. They don't provide support any longer, so we're looking to replace these. This switch is what handles the traffic between the servers and the storage unit. So it's really the hub that gets everything and the information to then send out to all the computers. That is $117,000 to upgrade those switches so that it's all fiber. We're also looking to upgrade the server operating system. Currently, we're on 2016, and in a few years, that's going to be end of life with Microsoft, where we're not going to get the security updates. So we're looking to upgrade that to the newest. Currently, it's 2022, but when we do this in a couple of years, it may be a new operating system. Because we'll keep our security up to date. That is $180,000. It's the licenses, it's
You mean 80,000?
180.
Says 80. Actually, it says 80. It says 80. So we should insert the one. Yeah. Okay, so can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying you're currently at 2016?
Correct.
Okay,
That is, the patches will end in October 26th.
so I assume then that the contingency's wrong on this too?
Yes. So it'd be 18,000 for contingency.
So this is countywide and then it's only the
Riverside restaurant portion is only 52. Is that number correct?
No, that would have to be expanded. I'm just, I'm looking at the numbers and it looks like, the Riverside portion is about double the county portion. So I would say that you get, probably, you would add another, so around 75,000 and 25,000 for the county portion.
Okay.
The upgrade, the fourth one down, upgrade to server.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah, the price comes from the server licenses. We're not physically doing the service, but the server licenses, the exchange license for our email system. And with that, you have to have Office to match the Exchange server, so that license. And then there are some third parties, such as the jail has their own system on one server, and as we upgrade the servers, you start with a brand new server, you don't just upgrade it. Servers like these start brand new, so we'll have to do a migration.
I know that. Then why are we doing this now when it's 2026? Why aren't we putting this in another budget year versus right now? Is there a reason why?
I'm putting it in. That we're gonna.
Because it's a 6-year capital plan.
Oh, okay.
So we won't do it, but
Okay.
it'll be.
Just get it done. It'll be in there. Gotcha.
It'll be in there and available.
Okay. Gotcha.
The licensing you mentioned, is that part of this?
Yes,
And that license is paid on a yearly basis?
the server licensing, when you get we just have to buy the licenses. So that would be,
Oh, it's a one time.
yes.
It's a one.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Next was to replace the virtual desktops. We have a virtualized system where everything resides on the storage. The desktops we have in the jail and community corrections, it's a virtual desktop that we can manage, but there's a number of systems that, a number of products to get the virtual desktops. Virtual servers is one product called VMware. It's not the problem, but when we do the desktops, then we have to have VDI, we have to have SQL servers, do the licenses, and all of that ends up being about 35,000 a year just for those licenses. So to replace these and just go with physical desktops, they're about 3 years old, they sell. And we don't have to, we can eliminate a bunch of those other pieces. So to explain, but VMware is famous for saying, okay, if you upgrade this, now you have to upgrade all of these. And it's those other pieces that start becoming very expensive, the desktops. So we're gonna keep the virtual servers, but we're just gonna remove those desktops. So the desktop will be, say, a user has a computer in front of them, that's the desktop. That's the part that this VMware has made a bunch of different products costing a lot more to keep those desktops. Whereas the server, like I said, it's VMware, that's it. So the servers are fine, but to just have a desktop to put the people, it's more costly than me just buying a physical computer and putting it in there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Upgrade the fiber in the restaurant and the jail. When that fiber was put in, it was many, many years ago. It will do 1 gig, but everything else today is at least 10. That fiber can't be used to go to the 10 gigs. The courthouse is done. We already have this as 10 gigs. But the jail and the restaurant has just an old fiber that we want to replace with single mode and upgrade everyone to 10. Again, that also ties in with the demand in bandwidth. Again, with the residents doing a lot of Netflix streaming and other streaming, so we're looking to increase that.
Would that be part of the wireless?
Well, no, the wireless would be using that bandwidth, but everyone uses that fiber. So when the computer tries to do anything to get to the internet, it has to go through the fiber, then it goes out to the fiber through first leg to get to the internet. It's once it comes into the building, it's an old fiber that is just the technology's gone.
What does the jail have right now in it?
The same.
Same as the ref's home?
Same as the rest home. It's
Okay,
it's a 50 micron fiber, but, and we want to go single mode so that
Yep.
we can put everyone up to 10 gigs.
Okay.
So the fiber is just sends light down. So the fiber is that cost, for $100,000, about 75 is actually to install it and to buy the fiber. And there's a lot of fiber that has to be run in this building. The other 25,000 is what they call the GBICs. So you have light coming down the fiber. The thing that really makes the magic is this tiny little GBIC that the fiber plugs into. It takes that light and decodes it for the computer to know what it's saying. Next thing down the road is our firewall replacement.
Can I just speak for a second on this, Paul?
Yes.
Our insurance company, has encouraged us, particularly in the firewall upgrade. They've had a number of, what do you call it when they intrusions,
Cyber attack.
I'm sorry?
Cyber attack.
Yeah, they've had cyber attacks. Now, if you remember, we had one several years ago at the sheriff's department. Fortunately, well, it started through the sheriff's department. Fortunately, Paul caught it really early and we weren't held for ransom or anything of the sort. And we did some repairs, which was actually covered by our insurance company. But the insurance company now is getting so many cyber attacks, on municipal organizations that they've offered and worked with Paul, and Secret Services worked with Paul also to point out any weaknesses they thought we might have in our system. So I'll leave you now to the firewall.
Okay. So they do, with the US Homeland Security, also working with us, they put us into some projects where they actually try and penetrate our system. And then they'll send us a report of vulnerability so we can go into the firewall and tighten those areas. The firewall, the end of life is expected to be April of 26. So to keep the protection and to keep potential virus out is to replace that firewall. That firewall, back to number one, the wireless, it also is the wireless control. There's a piece in there that allows us to do the wireless, so it does both things. The firewall also is what does all the routing. So Janet wants to send something to the rest home, it does all that routing to make sure the packets are safe. And the final piece was the storage replacement. Storage is a entry unit. It makes, we have two of them, so it backs itself up. One's over in the server room and the other one in the courthouse. So if one was to, the building blew up, we still have all the data. The storage unit is everything. The servers, they said we're virtual, they actually live on the storage unit. It's all software today. Storage unit also does the backups, so we are taking backups of all our servers once an hour. Plus once a day. Plus once a month. So we have a number of backups. When we were hit with the virus. Back years ago, one thing that was not hit. Was that unit, because the way it does the backups, it doesn't look like a normal backup, it was not attacked. Our normal backups were wiped also. Yes.
So Paul, I'd like to ask you some questions about our situation vis-a-vis the rest of the counties, and also the state. So in my committee in Concord, we have fairly regular interaction with Dennis Goulet, who is the head of IT, DOIT, Department of Information Technology. And so, and you may all be aware of it in your committees in Concord as well. But the state is also being attacked on a daily basis, what, hundreds or thousands of times, I'm not exactly sure what happens. But it's a constant battle. So my question for you, Paul, is, are we tied into the state? Are we tied into the other counties? If we're hit successfully, or one of the, or let's say Grafton gets hit successfully, does that have any impact on any of the other counties, or do we have any? Do they have any impact on us? Or are we an island? Are we all islands?
We are an island, we have a few tunnels, secure tunnels with the state, and that's for spots connections. That the jail uses, and that's about the only thing with the state. That we're tied in, we're not tied in with any other counties, so if one other county got hit, it's not gonna affect us. If there was any attack on us, the first thing we do is we let anyone else know. After we shut our network down, we let everyone else know that is attached to us. That they should shut down and check it out. The other piece, when we were talking about with the Homeland Security, is they also do another feature for us where we go, our outgoing to go somewhere goes through them and they check where we're going. So we get a report like this, and in 1 week, we had 500 high security sites that someone tried to go to that they blocked. It's less than 1%, but it's still 500 potential attacks that could have happened. So we have them helping us on our information going out, and we have them also trying to come in and let us know, folks.
I know the county has been working very hard to keep up to date on technology and security. Is all of this, pretty much outdated now, or what are we looking at in terms of, I know it's highly, recommended that we do this. Is there any danger of, before us being able to okay this through the whole delegation, that something may fail?
Something could fail. The wireless could fail. I can't get parts. But we have two controls, so I think we're okay. If one piece went, we still have another piece. Upgrading that is gonna help upgrade our security. The phone system, if it fails, First Light's still committed that they would work with us, but we could be down for a week or 2 weeks before they find a part. So we can survive, but we want to get that taken care of. The core switch is also, we can't replace that, but that core switch is a number of hitting 8 different switches. So the odds of all 8 going down are very, very slim. And if we had to just stick something in it to limp along, that's what we do.
The way I look at it, this is all critically important at this time, and it all is integrated. So it's important that we do it pretty much all at one time.
Yes, except for some of the latter pieces,
Yeah,
they're fine. It's just that it's going to go into life It's the nature of the thing. They'll only produce something for so long and then the company wants to make something better. So they say, we're not gonna deal with that one.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, David?
Where do cloud services come in?
So we don't use the cloud services. That could come in with like an Office 365 Exchange server. But that was gonna come in at $138,000 a year just for those licenses. Whereas
Just to do Office?
just to do Office. So it was very expensive. Now, we have more work because it's in-house, so we have to keep up with the patches and the updates. Where you go 365, you don't worry about it. But it's very expensive, so right now.
What about for storage?
The storage, we're keeping it in-house. Once you send anything to the cloud's just another company that has a service. So now you're sending all your traffic over the internet to get to that company. And it's encrypted, but we're safe here because it's not going out. Our information is just going to a server in-house locally and being stored.
Oh. Okay.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you very much.
Hang around for a few minutes, Paul, just in case. Mike? Is Mike next?
Thank you.
My next?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you're next.
Okay, I'm Mike Morris, I'm the physical therapy director. I've been in Riverside for almost 22 years now. It's a long time. But, the things that I'm putting in for don't really fall under physical therapy per se, they fall more under for the general nursing home, under nursing. I oversee the patient lifts. What, if you're not familiar with that, there's mechanical lifts that help get residents out of bed, put them in wheelchairs, put them into shower chairs. And that's, to save on our staff, so, they're not hurting their backs. Some of the residents wouldn't even be able to be moved if it wasn't for these mechanical lifts. So most of my items are shower chairs, which are reinforced kind of lounge chairs that can handle, 300, 400 pounds. And people that we can't normally put in the tubs. We have stand lifts. And those are lifts that just kind of like help bring someone up to standing on a platform, and then you can pivot the whole lift and then bring them to either a chair or the tub. And the other lift that we utilize is a Hoyer lift. Have you ever seen those lifts they use to like take out the car engine? That's kind of the same idea. They just have a big strap on them, and those are for the people that are completely dependent on the lifts for being moved from one spot to another. So what I proposed was, like say the bariatric lift, I asked for, I think 4 of them over the next 6 years. And then we have a standard Hoyer lifts, and then we got the standard stand lifts and a bariatric stand lift. And I just kind of, each one usually goes for $3,000 to $5,000, but I tried to add up how many we're gonna need over the next 6 years. So most of the time I'm asking for 3 or 4. We try to keep 2 of everything on the units. We do repair these a lot. Maintenance has helped us keep these going. Sometimes we bring them right down to almost needing duct tape, and I'm probably going to keep these things working. So everything I'm asked for is pretty critical for the function of the facility. And then the last item I asked for was actually, it's called a stand lift, and that's actually for the physical therapy department. And I don't have that as a high, that is just something that we use for well, we don't use it right now, because we don't have them, but we use it for residents that have been in the hospital or that had a decline. And we want to get them stronger so they can stand up and transfer. Or we want to get them stronger again so they can use the stand lift machine instead of the Hoyer lift. The last one I talked about, the Hoyer lift is, the patient loses all the dependence. They can no longer be brought to the toilet because of the type of lift it is. So we do everything we can to try to keep people from going to that point.
I'm really glad to hear that. The Hoyer is very scary for a lot of residents.
Right,
And I'm wondering, has the design or anything improved so it's less, how can I say, intimidating to those who have to use it?
I guess the only thing that's really changed on them is they're battery powered now. So they, they open and close automatically, they raise and lower before you have the pump to open it up, and then you have that pump to raise to raise them up, and then, yeah, it was pretty archaic.
The other thing I think that's enhanced a little bit is they go all the way down to the ground. So that if for some reason one of our residents falls, in the old days, we would call the House of Correction and they would send 3 or 4 correctional officers over to help us lift a resident off the ground. Now the Hoyer lift goes all the way down to the
Right.
ground, and that's a newer
That's a good
feature.
improvement.
Yeah.
And it can lift, up to 800 pounds. We
Right,
do have, some residents that are, in excess of 500, around 500 pounds. Now, we can only take so and so many residents that are of that size on a particular unit. So it forms a little bit of a waiting list because, staffing wise, it's impossible to take care of several people that are of that size. So we try and have it so there's only 1 or 2 per unit, that are of that size.
right.
And I think the stand lift is a wonderful invention. I'm glad that we'll have that.
Those are great. I saw those first when I did home care, when I first came here, and it's like, we need stand lifts. And they're wonderful, because people can be put on the bath, the toilets and everything like that. And the companies that I go through, I've worked with since I've been here, Black Bear Medical, Lakeside, just the same 2 or 3 companies. I have good relationships, so a lot of times I'm able to buy their demo units. So some of these prices aren't, might even be a little better than what's listed here, because I get some pretty good discounts.
But like any other project here, everything here has to go out to bid.
Yeah. I mean,
The only thing we might make an exception on is something that Doug's gonna talk about, and that's a sewer issue that we have at Riverside. But he'll talk about that when the time comes.
Yeah, and for an example, the shower chairs are over 10 years old that we're using now. And same thing as they run into is, we're calling the companies for shower chairs, some of our fancier wheelchairs. And then, there's no parts anymore. And we try to stick with the same company or same type of wheelchairs just for that reason. When one dies, maintenance will strip it out for the parts, and, they'll take the wheels off, they'll take the brakes off, and then we can, fix someone else's chair. So, I mean, we do everything we possibly can to keep this stuff going. Have any
Yeah, go
questions?
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanna, so I understand I'll do it. Sorry, based upon like the spreadsheet thing, so the bariatric stand lift, which is like in the book here, I think that's a fantastic piece of equipment. That's 1, correct, you're getting of those? Okay, and then the Hoyer lift replacement, 1,
Yeah, that's,
okay. Resident shower chair replacement, how many is that?
well, let me go, okay, the,
So I understand.
resident shower chair replacement, I have for 5. over
5,
the 6
okay.
years.
Stand lift replacement,
Let's see. Stand lift replacement, I have. Oh, it's just the bariatric.
stand was not in the place.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have one, right?
Yeah, I just have the one. Oh, the bariatric stand material, that's what I. Then I have 4 because we don't really have any at this point. Yeah.
Oh, so these here, you're asking for 4?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking the easy stand was
Oh, the
what was
easy
4.
stand is the one that says moderate need. That's just one, and that's for the physical therapy department.
Oh, that's okay, so the easy stand is 1.
Yeah,
The first one is 4. Okay,
Yeah.
understand. Okay,
and the stand lifts are 4 too.
okay.
And the shower chairs, I think, are 5.
All right, just wanted to understand that.
And they're spread out over I just try to guesstimate when I'm gonna have to order, a couple for each unit, and I try to stagger it all through the 6 years. So that way, every year we get like 2 more
So the staff is trained in how to use this equipment and everything,
Yeah,
so everyone can do it.
Every year, in fact, it's coming in September. Every year we do a complete training of everything that we do. So simply because you have a license, you're a licensed nurse, doesn't mean that you can do everything that falls under your license. Every year we have to do like, I wouldn't call it a recertification, but it's a total in-service, and we film it so that it's repeated again and again and again. So each job has a sheet that tells them what trainings they need to go to. We offer those trainings over 2 days, and they're just repeated again and again so that we can get everybody involved. And then we film it so that when we do orientation of new employees, they can watch the film and don't have to wait until next year to get to go through it all. And some of it's really technical, particularly those things at Hyder. The use of the internal devices that we use, the injectable devices and the medications. And some of it is more basic, something as simple as how to be sure your cleaning cart is set up in the correct way. Because believe it or not, that is something that the feds look at very carefully. In fact, we just had a federal visit. And one of our cleaning carts contained a water jug, a water container, because it's hot, it's during the hot spell. And we can't put any container on our cleaning carts. So as an example, although honestly speaking, I've been there 36 years and I never knew that, but we were so educated.
So I just,
give you an idea there.
just a quick question. So I see there's one quote in here. So these are all, these numbers here aren't 100% exact, like this will all go out to the best bid for, I'm sure there's only a handful of the companies
Right.
that provide this
For
information,
this area.
that provide this, all right. And do they, in addition to that, like, I'm sure that there's warranties that go with this and, okay, as well as, with this kind of,
Yeah, and we do have, we have the warranties, but what happens is a lot of times we keep using the equipment, way past. the
Of course,
warranties,
I
and that's
understand
why,
things have been extended here, over and over. I get it. You guys are all very much extended. My other question is, I only know this from restaurant stuff. When we purchased very, big equipment, besides having those warranties in there, the companies that would come in and offer training as well. So he's talking about training, but usually they'll come in after buying a.
Right.
Okay, so I just hope we're able to utilize all those
Yeah,
things too.
in fact, we've scheduled a bunch of our outside companies that have agreed to come in September for our in-services. And again, fortunately, we have someone who has their own equipment to be able to tape all this stuff, and he does it for us for you know, cause he's an employee, he doesn't charge us anything
Nice.
other than his hourly cost. And he has the equipment to tape it. And we started that, a couple years ago but every year the presentations change. So we redo it every year. And that way we don't have to worry about orientation, you know, for new employees. They watch the filming and we have people there that can answer any questions that aren't clear to them as a result of the filming.
And, yeah, and all of our vendors will come in and they'll go through it with us, and if we're confident with it, then we'll teach the staff. If not, we'll have them go out, and so.
And there is, I'll be honest with you, there is times when coworkers have questions about, their fellow workers and things like lifts, you know, without devices and stuff. So we'll send them to physical therapy for additional training.
Excellent, is that it? Thank you very, very much, very informative. Okay, where are we now, Ray? Hold it done.
Is Guy Terry here? We'll just.
I have to leave early unfortunately, but I had a couple of questions. Are we doing a vote on this today?
Well, I think it's more a recommendation than a vote, because it has to go to the executive committee and then to the full delegation. So I think that historically, the executive committee has, been appreciative of the recommendations of the subcommittee. So I don't know that I'd call it a vote. I mean, I think it's called a matter of more of support.
So I
I
just.
would say it's to move it forward.
Another question on CIP, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Oh,
I
no.
just want to have a better understanding.
Of course.
I remember you mentioning that CIP cannot be something accrued over a period of time. It's got to be within that year. Is that correct?
No, it's within a period of time that you set for it.
Okay.
So if we're, when you do the vote, we've already actually gotten the wording, from bond counsel. It spells out the length of time of the CIP. It makes the CIP actually a part of the attachment, you know, of what you're voting on.
Sure.
And then what we would do is report to whatever delegation would like, either quarterly or annually, about what was accomplished out of the total amount and how much it cost
Okay.
when we went out to bid.
So the 4.8 million is not just in 1 year. This is over a period of time.
That's correct.
Okay. Perfect. You've answered my questions. So I have to leave in just a few minutes. I'm
But-
sorry to do that.
Oh,
but
that's okay. Thank you.
appreciate the-
Thanks for coming. Hi, ladies. These will be, we have an unusual circumstance with dietary. Oh, they're gonna introduce themselves, but we have illusion, they work together to, then you know what? I should just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, let him talk, will you?
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I'll just keep my mouth shut.
I'm Jen Hogan, the dietary director. We oversee Riverside, Hospice, Hyder House, and the courthouse. This is my assistant, Kim Perkins.
So we've worked on this project together, so we'll just jump in with what we have. Our first priority item is a new dish machine for the Riverside kitchen. The dish machine we have is roughly 30 years old, if not older. She doesn't owe us anything, but it's a critical piece of equipment. We use it 3 times a day for hundreds of meals, so, and it's a great machine. We're starting to run into some issues with not being able to get replacement parts for it and seeing an increase in repair costs, so we are looking to replace that.
Yes, we have like issues sometimes not holding water. They have to come in and fix it. And the guy just told me that, they don't even have the parts anymore for it, so.
So the next item we have is a bundle of new kitchen equipment. We do have a lot of old equipment, and we have a lot of needs, but we put our highest priorities in this plan. The first one is a new RoboCoop. We use that constantly. We use it for our INSEE textures. The cooks use it and wash it, use it and wash it. It's in high demand. Everyone waits for it. Sometimes it affects production and just the timeliness of some of the items that we're trying to get out on the line. And if it broke down, that would be kind of a crisis, because we wouldn't be able to accommodate all of our diets. So then next we have a fryolator. Our fryolator has exceeded its life expectancy, and it's small for our purposes. It's just a 2-basket fryer. We're looking to replace our current fryer with 2 slightly smaller ones, but it will allow us to keep up with our volume better and then separate shellfish allergies. And we do have a couple of those over at the rest home. Meal delivery carts. Those are showing their age. Maintenance is having to repair them often. The bumpers, the doors, the wheels. A heated cabinet. Having this item in our kitchen will really improve the food quality. We're using our ovens currently to cook and hold the food. And even on a low setting, it really does dry out the food. We get a lot of complaints about the meat being tough, and we have an older population with deficient issues. So that would be great for us. I think that's it that I wanted to highlight with the new equipment. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Do you have any question on any of that?
Maybe at the end.
Maybe at the end.
The next thing we're looking to do is a walk-in remodel.
Oh, that was a question.
Yeah.
Do you have an air fryer or convection oven that you, instead of heat fat fryer? Would you consider
So
moving towards that type?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
use it.
we do have a convection oven, and for some of our menu items, we have switched over to baking, or other cooking methods to make it a little bit healthier for the residents.
Yeah.
Some items just aren't the same if they're done in the oven, like French fries, so. And that's such a balance too, because we meet with the residents quarterly to go over, it's like a dietary subcommittee, and we go over food quality issues, and they want stuff that tastes good. So we have to balance that out.
Yeah, it's just drying out the meats and stuff and just kind of overcooking it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everything is put out on time.
And then you're getting a second room of food, you're gonna still,
Right.
just to have more capacity.
Yes.
Yeah, not waiting for it. Okay.
All right, so the next thing that we're looking to do is a walk-in remodel. Our walk-ins are old. A couple of them aren't sealed anymore. This is something that the state would care about when they came for our annual survey. We have not had to have that addressed with the state yet, but we would prefer to not have to address it with the state when it becomes an issue. So we'd like to be proactive in that area. Our goal is to increase the amount of refrigeration that we have. Our coolers are very full, while addressing the issues that we have with them. This would have to go out to bid. It's a more expensive project. And we did get a quote from a local company to do it and supply the equipment. Recently, we had to replace one of our compressors. And it is a correct size that would accommodate the larger walk-in remodel. And then lastly, we are needing to remodel our trailing area. We have some issues with the electrical in that area. There is like a wire that comes across the floor. It's covered, but it's still a tripping hazard. And we're going back and forth over that dozens of times a day. Also, we have a couple of items in that area that we need to replace. Our whole wrap toaster that we use on a constant basis is very old. And then a sandwich station to organize a busy job station in the kitchen. So those were the 4 projects that we had. Yes.
I hope that we are going to be building a new nursing home in the next 6 years. So I wonder, something like building a whole new walk-in unit, is that something that if we're gonna be building a new nursing home, we would not invest in a big project like that? And maybe that's a question for Ray or.
Yeah.
What we've tried to do is make as many of these items portable. you know, so that they, if we are so fortunate as to get a new nursing home in the next number of years, we're trying to make every item portable, like all those things that Mike had mentioned in PT, and obviously all the things in IT, and a number of the things, from dietary are all going to be portable items.
Right.
So
I
that
just did like
it-
a walk-in list for.
Yeah, and it all comes down to a question, the eventual question of what the old nursing home is gonna be used for. And I don't know that answer, and that's gonna be a question, that probably won't involve me, because I'll be gone. But at some point, the commissioners, whoever they may be at the time, and the delegation will have to make a decision about that. If it is to be used for something that produces food, then those items remain critical.
Right.
If it's not, then you're right, to an extent, some of these items, won't be usable, but we're gonna move as many as we can. But you're right, I mean, that's one of the items that won't, that's not something we can pick up and move.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that though, is your tolerance for risk, so you're gonna get eventually dinged because the seal isn't working.
And then they're gonna force us.
And they're gonna force you, so you can wait and say, you know, theoretically, we don't wanna do the walk-in pool because we're gonna pass a new bond and budget. But it's a risk that you're gonna take, because again, at any point when they come by an inspection and say, this is not acceptable, you will replace it.
Well, that's annual. I mean, there's an annual inspection between 9 and 15 months from your last one.
Yeah.
Our last one was December of, so we, you know, we slipped through. And,
Chances of doing it again are probably slim.
well, sometimes they won't cite you for a deficiency, but look at you and say, hey, guess what? You know, if you don't fix this, I'm gonna be looking at this next year. You know, it's not all deficiencies all the time. They also give you what they call recommendations. And I assure you, they write them down. So that, you know, that's the first thing they'll zero in on the next time they come in. As an example, Doug will give you an example when his turn comes, of something that we had to do, because they were gonna cite us for it.
And as I looked at this, I was thinking, again, the equipment's pretty portable, and if and when we get a new nursing home, we will be able to use it.
Yeah, we tried to focus on how, you know, movable the items were.
Yeah.
And as much as we can, we were trying to get things that, you know, could move.
I have a couple questions. So I grew up in the restaurant business, so this is kind of my space. So for the fry laters and all of that stuff, are you gonna be utilizing what we have here in the state and with like Hitco? Is that where you guys are planning to purchase that equipment?
Yes.
Okay. They're probably the best price around here and they're pretty fantastic to work with. Kind of going back to, the representative's question about, commercial air fryers. They're fantastic. They keep the food tasting sometimes even better intact, oil break down. I really wish you guys would consider that in versus just, of course, if you need a new fry laters, baskets, that type of thing, that'd be great, but it's perfect for everything. And we had one and it was like a $5,000 piece of equipment and it was fantastic. And so, the other thing is the walk-in replacement. So at my father's restaurant, that was at one point, 40 years old. And if the shell is strong, meaning like the inside is good, then you're fine and you can have it and do the work though, to make sure that the temperature, you're concerned with the temperature not holding, right, inside? And that's where you're gonna get dinged, I assume,
Well,
from the
we
state?
were, but we got a compressor.
Okay.
Other one.
Yeah, so I mean, all of that stuff, the seal, if it needs a new door, all of that should be an automatic replacement and we should authorize that because of course you have to keep the temperature in there, but hopefully if inside the shell is good, but you know, we got a cost for ridiculous amounts of money to replace the whole thing, and we didn't need to. We had someone that came in that was an expert, he was fantastic. We replaced the seals and the doors, and the temperature was always good. They put in new thermostats, all of that kind of stuff, so. So I think that I think that there's some room here for some, some things that you guys should think about putting in there, but definitely the heated cabinet, I mean, hospitals are using them, you guys should be using that kind of stuff too. My Nana was extremely picky, when she was in her home, with, temperature of the food, or if it was too chewy, or all of that kind of stuff. I can just imagine, so I'm hoping that you get some of that stuff as well, but the dish machine, that's something that would be portable too, correct?
Yep, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought, all right, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the community? Is that it for you folks?
That's it for us.
Thank you very, very much. Very
Yeah.
informative. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Who do we have now, right?
It's all on you, Dougie.
All right.
Morning, everybody. I'm Dougie Kane, the Director of Maintenance for Strafford County. Something I'd like to say first, thank you for showing up and taking this seriously, as we try to crunch Riverside as much as we can until we can get a resolution on new facilities. Also, all of these items that I put in here, this is our best guess, using vendors, using experts in the area, using vendors that we used before. A lot of these folks went out of their way to be complimentary and give us these numbers to work with. This is just a starting point. All of these items are obviously of an amount where everything would go out to bid. So this gives us an idea of what to ask for, basically, to cover it. Of course, there'll be some overages, but I'm hoping there'll be some underages at the exact same time, and everything will get us into the ballpark. Starting with building security for Riverside. So we have a couple issues right now at Riverside. Primarily being, there is no discrete way to alert the building that there is an emergency. Anything that you put over the PA system will immediately become a panic situation where you have 165 residents. We simply can't page over the paging system that there is a active shooter, or that there is somebody trying to break into the building, or the other issue we have is being able to secure the doors from one location instantly. Right now, during our drills, we're resorting to assigning folks that duty, going around to locking the doors, and then inevitably within a couple minutes, somebody will unlock that same door because they're not aware, because we're not able to do that. So that's the panic alarm portion of that. Badge access is important coming up. CMS would like to see us have some sort of accounting for access to the med rooms and access to sensitive areas. So that's also another portion of this, and some upgrades in the cameras. Our cameras right now are many generations old, and simply don't have the resolution or the storage capacity really to be useful. We've tried even to see, accidents in the parking lot during snowstorms, and it's really impossible with the equipment that we have right now. That's a best guess there from One Source Security on what that would cost for that building. And keep in mind, the issue with the kitchen equipment with portability came up. Anything that we add into this building right now is going to add value for whatever you folks decide to do down the road with the building once the new rest home is used. And that would be attractive to social service agencies or anyone else looking to utilize this space to do what they need to do. That may be a make or break deal. Hey, we've got a new walk-in. Hey, we've got a new dishwasher, or something along those lines. So just something to keep in mind as we go through this list. Any questions about the security systems?
Yeah, perhaps you can mention, Doug, that we've had, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in any
Oh,
way,
no, it's
transients that have.
Sure. No, it's with the utmost respect. Folks are released from incarceration the same way that they went in. Protective custody. If you come in with no cell phone charge and you need a place to call, first stop with an open door is Riverside Rest Home. We have had folks in crisis situations who have been released, who have no transportation, no communication. Even the jail allows them to reach out to people, and they just don't have anybody. So they're on the complex.
We give them bus passes.
Coast Brad Nichols has been great, has given us bus passes. That's a huge help to get folks to where they need to go. But yeah, being able to secure the building quickly is very, very important. We have 160 plus of the most vulnerable residents in the entire county over there. And we need to keep them safe. They deserve to be safe. Okay, moving on, sewer pipelining. Now, this is, there's quite a bit of information in here, and I apologize for the format and the layout. But this is a huge project, and the vendor was very patient with us, coming in, giving us their best guess on what it would cost to fix the sewer pipe issues over there.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Sure.
Thank you very much. As I was studying this in advance, I was wondering, is this all starting from where we connect to the city line or how far?
This is internally in the building.
Okay,
Yep, and about halfway down to where our grinder pump is. We have a grinder, excuse me, not a grinder pump, we have a grinder treatment down here that basically macerates everything for the public sewer system. So what specifically belongs to Riverside and belongs to the county is where the issue is. These pipes are all buried in clay, and there's been quite a bit of erosion. During the camera inspection, we found some pipe capacity reduced by as much as 60%. And the introduction of wipes and form materials and things has really become an issue. So it's a high priority for me to get that taken care of. We have had sewage failures in the past. And it's really disruptive. I mean, some of the building floors all go through one sewage pipe. So we would have 2 units basically shut down with no sewer if we did have any sort of collapse in that area. This is their best guess, according to Wind River. They guess about 1,250 feet total sewage pipe for the building. Now, some of this is accessible in the ceilings and obviously wouldn't need to be lined. They could just remove it and change it. These are all worst case, you know, for a number here. They come in at 262 for their guess on lining the pipes and replacing the ones that needed to be replaced.
So that's the 288, right? Thousand.
Yes, there's a 10% contingency in here, obviously for inflation. I use the inflation factoring, guessing a 5% inflation rate. Best I could tell looking online, we're somewhere between 3 and 5, depending on where you're looking at. And the standard factor I use is add a 1 to it. So 1.05 times the number of years got us up around 9%. So I just said 10% for ease of calculations.
The other thing is there, because some of that is buried in the ground. And even though we use cameras for as much as we can, we do expect that as we're completing the project, we're likely to find some additional areas that need to be lined.
Yeah, they did tell us that there could potentially be in the areas where there are junctions and where there's some add-ons, there could potentially be the need to actually dig it up, to do some excavation and actually dig the pipes out.
Okay.
The lining, they said, can probably fix about 80% of the issues that we have right now. But in extended areas where we have large losses underground and sand has infiltrated with the clay, then that's a real problem there.
So what's the lining? Is something that just goes over the?
It's a polyurethane foam. You're familiar with expanding foam? Great stuff.
No,
Stuff
really?
that you use to insulate
Yeah.
the spray can.
That's right.
Oh,
Yep, so this is a process where they have a preformed sleeve, and if you can imagine taking a sock and turning it inside out. They put the
That's right.
sock over the end of the pipe and then they press it, and it travels inside out through the pipe and lines the pipe. It hardens within 6 to 8 hours, and you have a durable liner. They said anywhere from 75 to 80 years
I know, it's
is what they're
incredible.
seeing. Yeah, it's really,
Totally incredible that, how we do it.
yeah, it's a game changer,
Yeah.
really, because the traditional method was excavate, replace, and then hope you don't disturb something fragile, either upstream or downstream.
so you do this under the concrete? then?
Yeah.
Correct.
it's incredible.
Yeah, if you have access to both ends of the pipe. You
How
just
big
send-
how big is your pipe?
6 inch in some areas, but most of it's 4 inch. And then 2 inch off the units. The junctions are 4 inch.
And you go down to the small sizes also?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay,
Thankfully, the 2 inch pipes mostly are accessible through the ceilings.
yeah.
Only ground floor would have to be lined.
Kelly?
Yeah, I just have one other thing, about that. I think you know, I don't know if it's a question or statement, but like, looking at those pictures and seeing where we're at, and mind you, I've only been here for 2 years, right? So obviously, this has been a problem for a long time, right? You've had sewer problems. Why is this the first time that we're taking care of this? I mean, I don't get it. I know you built a new jail. I understand. Why weren't these things kept up to we get to the point of absolute catastrophe?
So we
I just
had-
think it's gross negligence, not on your part. I'm making a statement, but I don't get it.
So what brought it to our attention was we had a massive pipe failure last year. We had one collapse, probably about 3 or 4 feet, and that serviced units 1 and 2 in the B building. That brought it to our attention that we really need to get somebody in here to take a look at this. Wind River was kind enough to only charge us $1,000 to scope the entire building, which was, that's a $30,000 job really to scope that whole building. So we got a complete picture of what the plumbing looks like down there.
So none of the plumbing in the ceilings was leaking,
No, and
we did not, we would not have dug up the floor for the simple reason of determining whether the pipes were failing or not. We discovered it last year, fortunately, in a non-resident area of the facility.
right off the laundry.
And that's what then, made us look at the rest of it.
But didn't you guys have backups years prior? I thought you've had problems with.
Well, sure, we've had backups, and the way that they treated them was chemical. I've discontinued the chemical use because obviously it's
course
not interacting well with the pipes. that are in
Exactly,
there,
it
so-
destroys the pipes and you have old pipes and you know you have old
Right,
pipes, so
Right,
yeah.
so we're
okay.
100% mechanical now.
All
We've
right.
actually purchased a longer snake, to snake out some of this stuff.
Is it iron pipe or is it?
Iron pipe, that's correct, yeah, schedule
Cast iron?
80, yeah, or excuse me, schedule 40.
It cracks.
It disintegrates, yeah, it's a chemical reaction, it's buried in sand, so it's slow galvanic, just like a
Oh.
battery in the soil.
When we did have the problem last year, we were able to dig it out ourselves and find 2 solid ends.
Right.
So we didn't have any reason to think it substantially continued in any directions.
And thankfully, the soil that we have is clay.
Oh, no, clay,
Yeah,
you're,
it's-
you're very, very lucky that it's in clay,
Yeah, it's,
so
yeah, it's
that's
encased in
fantastic.
clay, so really, the problem is intrusion of sand and things from the outside, not really a leak from the pipes outward. Does anybody have any questions?
Just one comment, actually. So what you're seeing, because you said it's like gross incompetence or negligence or whatever. But this is the beauty of a really old outdated building, is you get to discover all of these things. And so I put that under opportunity cost. So, at the longer that we take to think about a replacement for this building, the more that we're gonna find outdated parts that we can't replace, we're gonna fix.
Of course,
Piping that doesn't work anymore, roofing that doesn't wanna work anymore, HVAC that doesn't work anymore. So that's part of the blame of this rests on us, the delegation.
Well, I mean, and honestly speaking, with this, I thought we fixed the problem. I didn't have any reason to think that, when we found, the biggest scare was finding 2 ends. And once we found 2 ends and we were able to fix it, I didn't have any reason to think, 10 feet further down, we're gonna run into the same problem. Until, we ran the cameras through.
Sure, and the backups that we've had before, we've all been able to attribute to some sort of mechanical blockage, and the 10s perhaps makes it down.
And some of our residents are perhaps embarrassed that they're in some form of an adult disposable brief, or they're confused and make an effort to flush their attends instead of, the appropriate type of disposal, before the staff can, and it's impossible to,
it's impossible to catch all that.
well, it's possible to educate.
It is, yeah.
The residents, so.
That's understandable.
So, but we have been pretty good, and sometimes at the jail, honestly, the inmates are just, they're jerks.
The pack the drains, yeah.
Yeah, they're just flushing like a rag or something
Milk
down
cartons,
there to
To create
to
havoc.
create a problem.
Oh, yeah.
So the jail part's okay, though. I mean, it's obviously built 30+ years later. So but we've been really fortunate that we've been able to clear them ourselves. We haven't needed to call in, a company to do it. We've been able to do it ourselves.
And I think it's good that we discovered this now before we have a major crisis.
Well, yeah, and I can't argue with you that I wish I discovered it prior to now.
I know.
I wish we did, and then we would have, put it in our last 6-year capital plan, but we thought we.
Can only go forward.
Okay.
No, I think maybe we should refrain from
making statements that the corrupts negligence is part of the administration. It's a bit of an exaggeration.
No, I'm not, there's no blame. I'm just saying it seems as if we kind of didn't look at things for a long time and until it's like, okay, you gotta build a new one now, and we rush things through versus like all, like so much of, I don't know, it's an old building. I get that. I understand all of that. I just think that there hasn't been an emphasis on it, and I wasn't part of it. So I've only been here for 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm
Well,
looking at.
we did fix a number of things in our last 6-year capital
There's, yeah,
plan.
there were many more higher priority items at the time than the sewer. Leaking roofs, windows, HVAC issues. Yeah, it's
We still have,
like, yeah.
but we still got a flood in the last storm.
We had a torrential rain there Friday and it was all hands on deck.
It was all hands on deck.
You know, anywhere where there was an air conditioner, which is
Oh my
about
gosh.
75% of the residents, there was water coming in.
Is
Yeah.
it still flooding too? Is the nursing home still flooding in
The
the?
the roof is sound. We've done a really good job on making sure that we're up there on the patches. We've rewired some HVAC and done some duct work on there. So we're okay with standard water intrusions. These extraordinary storms, I mean, that one Friday was really,
Yeah, I know.
that was intense.
Yeah, we got it, in 15 minutes, we got an inch and a third of rain.
Sure, and we're using air conditioners in windows that aren't designed for them with, you know, a facility that's not designed to take that sort of rain. Obviously, it's basically leaving the window open.
And I would
During
have
that
that
rainstorm.
over the time I've been here, it's been an earnest effort, year after year. Try to keep up with things, try to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of, and looking forward as much as we can into the future, but also considering the tax impact. So I really feel that the county has done the best they can. Now is the time to address this.
Well, and I'm not disagreeing with what you said. I wish we would have done some of these things sooner. You know, I wish we knew, you know, or maybe we should have known. I don't know, but that's my responsibility. And, you know, we're here where we are now and a lot of these things I wouldn't say stumbled on, but there was no way for us to get into the floor on this particular item.
Unless you want to put in a capital plan where every 15 years you dig up the floor to go check.
Well,
It's crazy. There's certain
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
just by obsolescence of the building, you're gonna run into, and that's what I said, that's the opportunity cost of the building. It's not free to maintain the old building.
Any other questions about the sewer line? Okay. Moving on, breaker panel replacement. The issue that we have in the buildings is that these breaker panels are the original buildings breakers. Many of them are almost 50 years old. Some of the breakers we've encountered will not trip or reset, as a matter of fact, and new ones are not available. There are new ones that say they will fit, but they are too wide for the openings and cause the breakers to be pushed out of the way, which causes another set of issues. Thankfully, we have a very resourceful electrician who's finding new boxes of old breakers and we're maintaining it. But right now, the way this place is wired, it was originally set up for somebody to have a light bulb and a tube television. We have residents who have many electronic devices, charging tablets, televisions, Roku's, Amazon Fire Sticks. We have power beds where we never had power beds before, and there's a much greater electrical demand on these units right now. What our plan is here, obviously to save money, this is just a price for the outright equipment itself. We'd be using our in-house electrician, our licensed electrician, and we have the rest of our staff working with him as an apprentice on replacing these. The reason I'm going with this route, with us buying the hardware and doing it ourselves, is because of the sensitivity of the areas. These units have to be without power for a period of time while these panels are replaced. And coordinating that with an outside company, I don't think it would be fair to an outside company to say, you know, stop working today because we have baths or, you know, any other sort of disruption like that. So I think that would keep the cost down considerably. Plus the labor on replacing these panels, if we were to go out for a bid on that, I think would probably be many times the cost of just the hardware.
Plus, we can do it at different hours.
And we can do it at our leisure, right?
We can
exactly.
do it, you know, at various hours and split the day.
Mhm.
So, you know, somebody could work 3 or 4 hours one day and not have to you know, which is very costly when a company does that stuff.
And something else I'd like to mention, to the committee, if I can, kind of speaking to, Representative Wall. All of my items here are high priority. I have a low priority because we've got, some equipment that we're able to mitigate the parking lot with now. But these are all essential items. There's nothing, frivolous here. We're not looking for lounges or anything like that. This is infrastructure things to keep the building safe, to satisfy life safety and to satisfy CMS requirements.
And just because something's high priority doesn't mean that we've failed to do something. So everything has a
It's
lifespan.
50 years, yeah, it's time. It's time for this stuff to be addressed.
You're just looking at changing the breakers, right?
The
And-
panels.
And the panel box.
The
itself.
panels themselves to an available, breaker, yeah,
Yeah.
You're not
panel
changing any
replacements.
wires. Well, the wiring is
Panel upgrade.
what determines the amperage
correct.
on the breaker.
Yeah.
So the units are still gonna use the same amount of, and that won't make any difference.
The issue is the breakers that we have right now, because of the age, a lot of them are not tripping correctly.
Oh,
Yeah, they're staying on, they're not functioning the way that they're supposed to. And when we buy breakers, there's probably 20-year-old breakers if they're available new. I'm not allowed to buy used ones, and that's not a good idea anyway, you know, use used electrical equipment.
well, you change the panels, the expense, right?
Correct.
The big expense.
Yes, these are preloaded panels that come, with a full complement of breakers. I believe there's 30 breakers in each box.
Oh,
And this number here, that's again, 31 panels. We may get into it and find out we only need to replace 16. You know, where the danger zones are, because some units use a lot more electricity than other units. Depending on what's on the unit for equipment.
but I assume that your rooms are, the wiring is satisfactory
Correct.
for the,
Yes,
what they're using today.
yes, it's 20 gauge, MC to every room.
20 gauge, 20,
20 gauge, sorry,
20
12 gauge, excuse me, 12 gauge, 20 amp. And that goes,
even the receptacles?
correct.
They're not.
Yeah, we use hospital
They're not
grade
14 gauge?
Not, there may be some in lighting
Most of your
in some of the new
receptacles are
areas.
15 amp.
As far as the resident,
Yeah.
as far as the resident area is concerned, everything's 20 amp, 12 gauge. And we use hospital grade, receptacles. We have to use hospital grade receptacles.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's a much heavier duty unit than what you can find, on the shelf. You know, you could buy an outlet at Home Depot for, I'm sure, $4. These are 23 apiece.
Oh,
Because residents are plugging in air conditioners. I mean, we're using quite a bit more electricity than these rooms were ever designed to provide.
so is the breaker gonna have the GFCI on it, or is it the receptacles gonna have? the
All breakers in the resident rooms are on GFCI.
They have to.
Yep, you have your main breaker.
I know
coming in.
they're on it, but I'm saying, where do you do it? You can do it in your breaker, or you can do it at the receptacle. You have you have a little button on the receptacle?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
As the feed comes through, your first stop on the wire is your GFCI outlet. That's usually right behind the sink. And then everything else is wired off of that.
Off that, okay.
Yeah, so we have inrush with these air conditioning units when they start up. The air conditioner is rated for maybe 10 amps, but when it starts up sometimes, if it's hot enough, it could pull up to 30 for 1 or 2 seconds. Yeah, it's
Sounds like you wired up pretty good then.
we were, you know, when the problems uncover themselves, we got a great crew and they quickly respond and know exactly what to do. So we're very fortunate there.
Yeah.
But again, that's a worst case, gives us an idea of where to look, you know, for what to do to replace all those. Any questions on the breaker panel replacement?
So your electrician is going to be able to buy all of that, like directly from an electrical supply and then do it, right?
That's correct.
That's perfect.
Yep. Yeah, we use,
So save a ton of money. You're gonna be able to have the
exactly,
flexibility to do it all and.
yeah.
And he's very knowledgeable. I mean, he's really good. He's been with us for a while
Mhm.
and he's done some really good stuff for us.
Yeah, we're super fortunate to have him,
In fact, he worked 20-something years at Frisbee,
right?
so he's familiar with life safety stuff.
Good.
You know, coming from a healthcare setting to
Nice.
us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Moving on to the fourth item, we have a life safety electrical. Now, this is part of a quote and a assessment that we got from Du Bois and King. They're electrical engineers, an electrical contracting firm out of Vermont. They came and took a look at the entire county, took a look at what we have for equipment and what we need to do to move things around to make sure that we have coverage. This is one of the phases here, is at Riverside. we need to replace our diesel generators with natural gas units. Just to quickly go over the issue that we have, the storms that we have, heavy rains, then freezing weather, obviously power outages, trees breaking power lines. When we start to have power outages, it's usually regional. It's usually a regional problem. We have generators that have limited diesel capacity. So to call Hafner's to get them out there, we run into situations during ice storms where we're not able to get diesel from our supply folks because they can't fill their trucks. Their supply depots don't have electricity either. We're stuck going down to the fuel depot, the state fuel depot, with diesel cans or with a large vessel of some kind and hand feeding these generators to keep them running. The large generator out back of the jail, 750 kilowatt, burns 80 gallons an hour. So if you can imagine, every hour you're pouring 80 gallons of diesel into this by hand. It's
So
It's
none of your generators right now are plugged into the natural gas at all?
we have one natural gas generator at the Alms House, and we have one natural gas generator at Hyder House. All others are diesel. And that was to complement the infrastructure that was already there. Old jail had been there for 30 years, Riverside had been there for 30 years. So when they went with the new generator, they went with the diesel. Diesel has advantages, but obviously we're discovering there are some disadvantages to that. And I think if we rely on the natural gas, that will be a tremendous burden lift off of the maintenance department. These guys are out there 3 or 4 at a time filling these diesel generators for 48 hours, 72 hours. Last time we waited how long? 6 days to restore power to the dryers at the jail.
And I had to call.
Yeah, it was really.
Fortunately, I have a friend that works in public service and she was able to
Doing business?
help us with, help us getting it fixed. And
Yeah.
it was a stupid fix.
Yeah.
I mean, stupid in the sense that it was a 15-minute fix.
Sure. Just briefly, just 60 seconds, I'll go over what the other phases of the project are. We would like to replace the generators at Riverside and have them programmed for life safety. There is a difference between a backup generator and a life safety generator. Life safety generator switches instantly and is always on, available, ready to go. Backup generators could be 10, 15, 20 seconds, which could really cause havoc to us over there. This courthouse only has a portion of it, mostly the sheriff's dispatch and a few other safety lights on the generator that's out there. That generator out there is 175 kilowatts and is probably 40 years old, I would say.
It's original to the building.
It was original from Riverside, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, they moved it over here. That needs to be replaced. We'd like to take the 750 from out back of the jail and move that over here with the appropriate diesel storage. I say diesel over here and not natural gas because there's an important difference over here for life safety. We don't have somebody sleeping here. That's really the threshold when we talk about life safety, is whether somebody's sleeping in the building or not. We have somebody here 24 hours, but they're awake in the dispatch center. So I'm comfortable having a diesel storage tank that'll run us for 24 hours, 48 hours. Court functions can go on. It gives the state enough time to get the word out that, hey, we might not have electricity tomorrow. We don't have to spend extra money on having, the top of the line generator in this building.
The other thing is the court does pay us between $500,000 and $600,000 a year in rent. And the fact that we can't keep them up and running for sometimes days on
Right,
end,
right.
Is a slight amount of irritation on their part.
Yeah, it's,
They were forever calling their staff saying, no, power's still not back on. And so it'd be nice if we could move the generator over here and keep this building running.
Mhm.
We've never had, since the building was built in the 70s, we've never had a generator here in this building that did anything but run emergency lights. When we moved dispatch over here, we of course put generator and backup generator for dispatch because we dispatch for just about every town. And
And that's natural gas?
yes,
we're diesel here.
how about the dispatch?
Dispatch.
Oh, dispatch is natural gas.
Natural
Yeah,
gas.
Very
dispatch,
small,
that's what I
very
thought.
small generator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but
it only
it's-
has to operate that just once.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And the other phase of the project is once that 750 comes over, there is a 230 kilowatt generator in the old jail that is going through a series of transformers and inverters and step up and step down. Their plan is to have 2 side-by-side natural gas units, which cover the entire jail, new and old, do all the controls, do all the heat. Kitchen will be up. Right now, it's kind of a hodgepodge and a patchwork. I think when it was spec'd, it was built, and then they just kind of stopped right there and didn't think down the road about how things are gonna be powered. According to their assessment, it's probably the best plan we have for getting the coverage that we need, making sure everybody has backup on the facility.
So it's a little bit of moving generators around, instead of buying all new generators.
Yeah, the total estimate was, I believe, about 4.5 million to do the whole project, to move these generators around. Just that 750 alone is $400,000 if you were to buy it new, which is why I'd like to move it over here. And again, take advantage of it, being in a situation where it doesn't have to provide life safety.
Any grants on this?
No, not so far. Now, some of the other things that with other committees, we're working on a grant.
Okay.
Any questions about the life safety generators? Okay, bathing tubs and tub room heaters. We had to replace, speaking of suggestions from the state inspectors, one of the recommendations that they made very sternly to me last year was if the tub room floors were not replaced, that would be an issue. We had lots of issues with those tub room floors, basically not being able to be cleaned. No, there was a lot of stuff in there that we weren't able to mitigate and take out of there. So we did 4 tub rooms back in January, had those replaced. Those were approved on the capital. But what we found is when we move these tubs, just like a fiberglass boat, these are cracked. Some of these tubs are 30 years old, stress fractures, the hinges are cracking, and we're replacing these things just like you would repair a boat with fiberglass. It's noxious. The residents can't stand the fumes. It's probably time for us to replace these, and we're running out of parts. They haven't been manufactured in 30 years. We haven't been able to get new parts in 10. A lot of these parts we're making by hand. We're using lathes. We're contracting with people, folks like Custom Welding in Northwood, just making small parts for us to keep these things going the best that we can. This is again an estimate. Obviously, we'll go out to bid on 6 tub replacements, and we have 4 rooms that only have baseboard heat. And when the residents get out of the tubs, it's extremely cold. Even with a bath blanket, it's extremely cold. These are small supplemental gas heaters. We do have HVAC licensed guys in here that can run the gas and install. And again, just like the electrical panels, we'd be doing that ourselves. It's going to save quite a bit of money for us. Any questions about the tubs, gas heaters? Repaving and regrading the building, entryways and lots, and the main road. I put it as low priority. This year we purchased, through our new equipment, our 297 budget, we purchased a crack sealing machine. I believe with that crack sealing machine and some of the things that we're doing to help with drainage, we've got a new plan for storing snow. Big draining snow piles, believe it or not, are really bad for parking lots. The hydraulicking and the freezing, and it just completely destroys the parking lot. So we're not going to be storing snow piles up there anymore. And we'll do some drainage things to get the water out and get it into the catch basins as fast as possible. And we're sealing up these cracks the best that we can with this machine, and I think that'll buy us some time on getting that lot taken care of. You should see pictures in your packet there of the area. I believe our quote was from KC Paving. Again, it's a job that's going to go out to bid, but he was kind enough to get us in the area that we need to get. I gave you folks pictures of the paving areas because there are a lot of paving areas on that KC Paving estimate that you'll see when we get into the J&A and other groups. Those areas are highlighted in those packets as well. But just the Riverside portion should be highlighted in yellow there. Any questions on the paving? Okay, the separate item here for combining lower and upper parking lots and paving to walking bridge. If you look at County Farm Road Extension, where it goes down to the bridge and goes across the Cachico, it's wide, it's sandy, it's uneven. For access for the public and access for our residents, we'd really like to get some sort of substructure in there, whether it's pavement or what you folks will see in these packets is a plastic material. If you think of like an egg crate, You lay these down and snap them together and fill them with stone dust. You've got yourself a paver base. There's no petroleum. My concern is the proximity to the Cachiko. So that's why I'm concerned about paving that entire area. Any oil runoff, I really don't want that heading down towards the river. I think this is an environmentally sound option and comes in actually probably cheaper than what it would be to pave that entire area down there. Next is kind of a large project. This is falling under infection control, but we're going to be doing the work. So I asked if I could take care of this. It is of medium priority, but it is an issue. Laundry cart storage area, when we receive our carts from the jail, this completely fills our intake area. We currently do not have the area to keep the dirty linens separate from the clean linens once they're intake. We have clean carts going past dirty carts. They do the best they can to keep things to one side and keep things to the other side, but it's not acceptable to CMS, and really it's just kind of a general mess. We would like to take down a wall. There's a storage area just on the other side of laundry where I can move those items somewhere else. So that's a portion of the project. Housekeeping is looking at some sanitizing floor scrubbers that use hot water and do not leave a trail. Currently, our scrubbers are probably 15 to 20 years old. If you can imagine like an ice Zamboni, you walk behind it and they leave water, which is slippery. And we have had residents get hurt behind this water, even though we have somebody following up. The new floor scrubbers that they're looking for do a much better job. And they cut down on the amount of time that the floor crew needs to re-wax the floor. Apparently, these are not detrimental to the floor wax. Reversing dryers. Right now, we have one employee in the laundry, sometimes two. And when we're doing blankets and comforters in those dryers, when we're doing residence blankets and comforters, she has to remove those 4 times from the dryers and reconfigure them because they only go one way. It sounds trivial, but I think when you do that, you know, probably 20 or 30 times a day, it could be pretty tedious. And really the stuff ends up not getting as dry as it should. Sanitizing washers. If I could just tell you about a scenario. If we have a resident that has soiled laundry, that soiled laundry currently is being hand washed in the sink before it goes into the wash.
What?
Correct. We don't have a separate washer for that. We need a sanitizing washer for those individual loads so they will not contaminate the rest of the laundry. We need something that can guarantee that we can get that stuff sanitized, and hand washing is just not doing it. That is on the quote there from Yankee. As far as that goes, so some replacement laundry carts. We've got laundry carts that are at the end of their lifespan. We're looking for some replacements on those. The flooring area in laundry is worn through to the concrete. In some areas, the VCT is worn through. So we're looking at epoxy floor similar to the tubs. Same square footage, so I used a tub room estimate there to get us a price on the floor. And curtain replacement. The curtains that divide the residents and provide them privacy right now are 50 years old. Some of them are even older, believe it or not, and they're beginning to disintegrate. Lots of tears in the mesh at the top of the curtains. The cotton is just fraying from being washed, you know, over the years, over 50 years time. So we're looking to replace those with the antimicrobial curtains that are required now with CMS since COVID. There's a cost on those associated as well, and that's in the project. There's also a replacement for the dryer at Hyder. Right now, they have a commercial washer. I believe they have a huge 30-pound washer over there, which works fine, but they have a residential electric dryer. So we have 2 loads of laundry coming out of a washer going into a dryer that can accommodate 1 load. They really need a commercial natural gas dryer over there. The electric residential dryer is, if you can imagine leaving wet clothes out waiting for a dryer, it's not pleasant, especially with Afghans and things when folks are in hospice. They'd like to get that taken care of. So that's the whole project there, and the amounts there. Again, these are all just estimates. All the pieces will go out to bid for those.
These are estimates based on current prices, and they're as close as you can get to what the real.
What I did is I got the specs from housekeeping and from infection control on what was required for these. and I placed a call to Yankee. I figured they would be average, or even if they're high, it gives us an idea, you know. I'm not sure how much a washer costs, but they know, so. Once these projects get into motion, obviously they'll go out to bid and we'll have a better picture of where things are. But I feel confident that looking at those numbers, and again, we can all just do internet searches and get an idea of what stuff costs, but I'd rather have the vendors provide that for us. Any questions about that project? Okay, moving on to Hyder. I have 4 items here for Hyder. First is Wander Guard. Under the project description, it says keypad access. I bundled that in there. We have a couple rooms that we need accounting on for access. The boiler room is one, custodian closet is another. Those currently have key access. That's not a huge dollar amount. The Wander Guard there is what you see, the Stanley quote. From what I understand, and I may be paraphrasing here, speaking with our director of nursing, and Ray can probably elaborate on this. We're turning away a lot of folks for hospice who have issues with elopement. With elopement, escaping from the building.
Oh.
If you have, if you visited Hyder, you know, a lot of those rooms in the interior of the courtyard have doors that open directly to the courtyard. And at night, when you have one RN and one LNA, it's not a difficult stretch to imagine a resident just standing up and walking out the door, and we would have no alert to it. We'd have no way to know currently. So the Wander Guard system is a entire building perimeter quote. Any doors that are open would be triggered by either a wrist bracelet or an item on the clothing, and that would allow us to get the income from those folks that are being turned away right now because we don't have the sort of technology in the facility.
So there's primarily two types of residents that occupy Hyder. One is a general inpatient resident, and that's a resident that's very close to death. We're not obviously concerned about them wandering out of the facility, but actually the largest revenue source is a respite patient. And that, if that respite patient tends to wander, then we can't take them because we can't guarantee that they won't wander out. Not so much out of the front door, but because so many of our rooms have access doors to the outside, right directly in the room, we're not able to bring those patients in. And therefore the family doesn't get the respite that they need to continue to take care of them. Also, as I mentioned earlier, interestingly enough, the profit margin on respite is larger than the profit margin on general inpatient. Even though the general inpatient pays more than twice as much, we're responsible for the medication. On respite, the hospice is responsible for the medication. So it's actually a better turn for us, and it's a shame to have to turn these people away. We are going to try to work out a deal with Friends, the entity that's called Friends of Hyder, where they might be willing to contribute a portion of this, but you know, they haven't been willing to contribute the portion until the county shows that it's willing to contribute, you know, the other portion. So we will approach them, reapproach them again. They certainly didn't have the whole amount to contribute, but they might contribute a portion of it, if we show them a commitment to do the facility.
So just looking at this, I assume this is just one of the quotes, but this would probably, you know, go out to bid from a couple.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, all of these items are going.
So just to kind of understand, so it says quantity 12 here, so that would be like 12 doors, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so, and each door is whatever, like, you know, $2,000 or whatever.
Sure.
So, is it, so it's of course, it's the electronic piece, that's the cost, but is it actually brand new doors?
I know what we have is, these are sensors at the doors, and what
Yeah.
you're seeing for the cost is the installation for that sensor. Hyder is built like a residential house, so everything is sheetrock. There's no access to chaseways, there's no easy ways to get behind the walls.
So it's all the wiring going,
It's all the raceways,
Alright,
the
yep.
installation of the wiring.
no need to, I
Yeah,
get
it's
it,
all the,
alright.
all the ancillary.
Cause I'm like,
labor
wow,
there.
that's really expensive, but no, it's really not, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. Alright.
Yeah. No, it's- You know, so, oh, thank you.
It has to be hardwired, huh?
Correct.
Yes.
That's the rule, huh?
Yeah, it would be wired in just like a fire panel, or just like anything
Yeah.
else, life safety, it'd be hardwired.
Hardwire.
Okay, any questions for the Wonder Guard?
A lot of details, that sounds.
Yeah, this list has been pared down. It was about 3 times the size, but I've done a lot of combinations of things just to,
And there's a lot of things that you have taken off the list that you're doing
Sure.
with your own crew.
exactly, yeah, for lack of a better description, there's a lot of things we can pick at with our standard building repair budget over the next 6 years, and I don't think there's imminent failures on some of the stuff that I had removed from this list. Culvert replacement was one of them. I know that was on the list a couple of weeks ago when I presented it to the commissioners. But looking at what we have for equipment, what we have for skill, we can replace those culverts ourselves. It's gonna save us about $30,000 doing that culvert replacement. Just an example of some of the things that we removed from the list here. Okay, moving on to the second item. This is another life safety. We had a sprinkler leak in the piping at Hyder, and we discovered that when it was installed, the grading was not correct. It was not graded towards the drains. So there was a large portion of the sprinklers holding sediment, and once that was discovered, we get in there and they're offering to do a flush to remove all of that sediment, because what happens is if we have an activation, all of that sediment is gonna go right to the sprinkler and plug the sprinkler. So this is a very important thing to get taken care of.
No, we didn't build Hyder, so I mean, that wasn't anything to do with
Yeah.
us.
Sure. Yeah, there'd be no way, there'd be no indication that that's going on in there until you actually.
No,
get
we
in
wouldn't
there.
know, and obviously the city approved it, but maybe didn't check on it.
Did they miss
completely.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Oh my gosh. So how is that, I mean, I know a little bit about sprinkler systems, so how old, for example, is that system?
2007, I believe.
Yeah, when Hyder was built.
How it was
so,
built, right?
yeah.
And this is a dry system. You have dry systems and wet systems. This sprinkler occupies portions of the roof that are not heated, so this is a dry system.
Oh,
meaning
okay.
It's completely filled with air.
Yep.
Once you have a sprinkler head pop off, a door opens up and floods it with water. The concern is once the flooding of water comes in, if we do have a fire activation, it's gonna loosen up all that sediment that's in the other parts of the pipes
Oh my
because of the
gosh,
drainage,
of course,
right?
yeah.
So once we do the flush, also part of that estimate is regrading the pipes to make sure that it's near the drain and installing them in any low spots where they can't regrade them.
So
Yes.
this price includes sort of resetting.
It makes everything right, makes everything up to code, makes everything function the way it's supposed to.
And
Yeah,
there's no way to, there's no way to go back, right? We can't ask, we can't,
The company that built Hyder was Seacoast Hospice, they're gone.
okay.
They sold to another hospice, they're gone. And then Amedisys took over as the third one. They still exist, but what Amedisys had to do was, when they got out of the hospice business, the way the wording was done to the delegation for approval, they gave us the building for free.
Oh, okay.
So at least we got a free building.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Although, there's a couple items that have needed to be repaired, but at least we didn't.
But
pay
it's
for
a
the
still
building.
free building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the artwork alone in that building is probably worth the whole cost of the building, because a lot of that got
Yeah.
donated by various artists. And the artwork is amazing, and when Amedisys left, they left us everything. The beds, the artwork, the only thing that, and we did it as a family, my family, we did all of the curtains and we did all of the bedspreads, just as a donation of our time.
The donated quilts.
Yeah, all the quilts, all the bedspreads and all of the matching curtains. My family decided that they wanted to do it, so we
That's
did it.
wonderful. Can I ask a question about, so how was it found? So was this during, because I know all of that stuff has to be looked at, not necessarily on an annual basis, but it's just like elevators and all that kind of stuff, it all has to be looked at, so.
We had a
Cause
leak.
this was just, the leak was what,
So
the
is
leak,
covered. Yeah, we had a leak
Okay.
in the middle of the hallway, going up into the ceiling. We discovered the pipe's about 30 feet long. It's in a main hallway. And of course, it sags in the middle. So this was not graded towards the drains. Once they got up in there and replaced the pipe, they cut it in half, and we had probably 1.5 inches of sediment at the bottom of that pipe, which opened up the discussion about what do we do now? You know, and of course, there's the danger that once we flush the sediment out, we may find more leaks.
I know, that's what I was just gonna say, what,
The piping, say, for instance, the piping that's used in the sprinklers at Riverside there's a lot of nickel in it, and it's very, very rugged, very stout piping. We don't usually have pinholes. The stuff that was used at Hyder is not very high quality. There's some seams in it, and there's some other issues there where either the metallurgy or the thickness of the pipe, we're uncovering leaks, you know, at a much more rapid rate than we would, say, in the Holmes house.
all right,
What we're trying to do is trying to get ahead of this.
yeah, definitely.
Obviously, don't want that sediment plugging anything if we ever do need the sprinklers. That would be catastrophic.
Well, we're lucky to have that building, and I'd say that we haven't had to do much about it in
Sure.
terms of maintenance.
Yeah, the
over years.
building's quite sound, and actually, it's a nice building if you look at a lot of.
It's actually beautiful.
It is a beautiful building.
Yeah, it's nice to start at a place where we can maintain the building at that level. You know, it's much easier than obviously trying to fix stuff that's
Much
50,
easier
60
than
years old.
RRH.
Yeah, and that building, they had to, Citizens Bank actually ate the mortgage. Cause there's there remained a $2 million+ mortgage on the building, and Citizens had to eat it.
Oh, is that
Wow.
right? I don't
They had
remember
to,
that.
they had to write it off, yeah.
Roof
That
replacement.
must have been on the first,
They got a lot of donations from the Hyder family. That's why it's called Hyder Hospice
Yeah,
House.
yeah.
But there was still over $2 million that they needed to borrow to complete the construction of the building. Citizens loaned the money to them. Actually, interestingly enough, Seacoast Hospice never paid a nickel towards the mortgage. They just couldn't make ends meet, which is why they sold to another company. So the commissioners allowed the transfer of the land lease, you know, the $1 a year
Yeah,
type
yeah.
thing. And then that went to another company who sold and went out of business, and they sold it to Amedisys, and we again allowed them to continue the land lease. Now, remember, when Amedisys gave it up, we didn't wanna run it. We offered it to 24 different hospices that are licensed in New Hampshire. Nobody even returned our phone call.
And that was
Nobody had-
back in 2007?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, nobody even, no, that was later than that.
Oh.
Because 2007 was when it was built.
Okay, all right.
And no one even responded to it, so, the delegation voted unanimously at the time to, continue the operation of Hyder. The state kind of bent the rules a little bit, and allowed us to attach Hyder to Riverside. And therefore, you only need one administrator, you only need.
Combine the resources.
Combine the resources, cause the state didn't want Hyder to close, cause it's the only hospice house east of Concord. And there's one in Concord, and then there's one in the western part of the state.
Yeah.
So the state, kind of looked the other way and allowed us to attach it, to Riverside, even though it was back at a time when they weren't allowing any additional beds to come online. They allowed us to do that, so we've ran it ever since.
Yeah, we took it over in 2014.
Dean would know.
2014.
With the help of friends of Hyder.
Well, I learned just a 2-minute side thing. We learned that the failure of the hospice house was mostly related to the fact that they forced every hospice to change their resident over to their hospice in order to admit them. So what was happening is if say, Beacon Hospice was caring for a resident for 3 or 4 months, then all of a sudden they needed either respite or they needed the critical care of general inpatient, Amedisys forced Beacon to give over the resident to Amedisys. And Beacon's going, well, wait a minute, we've taken care of this person for several months, we know this person, you know, we don't want to do that. So what we did was, as far as I know, it's the first in the country where we open our doors to every hospice. In fact, we have contracts with about 7 or 8 different hospices from Maine to anywhere to take care of Strafford County people, because as you know, a lot of Strafford County people go to Maine Medical. Or they'll go
I
anywhere.
feel like we need to get back to the capital
Sorry,
improvement.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
I
gotta.
thought it was a good story. All right.
Any other questions about the sprinklers? Roof. Okay, roof replacement on Hyder. The roof is the original roof and we're losing shingles, maybe one a month at this point. We're starting to see a little bit of moisture come into the inside of the building. We're doing the best we can with, Flex Seal and other products to keep it out until we can get a roof replacement on there. But the shingles are failing pretty rapidly. That's a quote that we got, on a total roof replacement. Obviously, we'll go out to bid and the best bid will win there.
And that, are you gonna just replace it with just a regular traditional shingled roof? Or are you
Architectural
gonna?
shingles, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they gotta fit in the character of the building. We've discussed other roofing materials like steel roofs and things, but it's not any more advantageous. In steel roofs, the steel lasts, but the fasteners fail.
well, that's what I was just gonna say, they seem like they last forever, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah, we're coming up on about 20 years on this roof. I'd like to get ahead of that, sometime in the next 6 years to make sure that we don't have any further losses or any further damage in the building. But it is a wood frame structure.
Well, metal will cost twice as much, wouldn't it?
Yes,
You could, yeah.
yeah, it does,
But it would last allegedly 50 years.
correct.
Yeah, it's a complex roof over there. There's a lot of different angles and things, so I'm not sure if.
Well, they
we've
claim they
saved
can do it.
Yeah. All right, we have, last item, redesigning and resurfacing and improving truck access, to the parking lot. You folks look in your, packets there, I believe, you have a picture of the Hyder parking lot. This relative to the paving quotes. Should have something in your packet there. And some pictures of the current conditions in the Hyder parking lot. I apologize if it's not in there. There's quite a bit of stuff in here.
You had a bunch of paving stuff, but that was about the other,
Okay,
that was,
we have many areas in the parking lot that have been patched and repatched and reconfigured. Basically, the whole property is landfill. We have a lot of depressions, a lot of sinkholes, a lot of frost heaves. The trash trucks coming in and out are really doing a number on the sidewalks, and I'd like to get that reconfigured and get that drainage taken care of, so you don't have standing water over there anymore, to get it shed off the parking lot and away from the building.
So when you do that, do you have a certain type of surface in that you can do for just people coming to visit versus the heavy trucking that comes in?
It would be a consistent surface, and what they'd have to do is remove the pavement and check the substrate that's underneath, make sure that everything's
Yeah.
compacted. We're able to get the angle that we need to get that rain away from the building and towards the catch basins. We have examples over there where there's standing puddles of water right next to a catch basin, because the catch basin is higher than the actual parking lot. Detail. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
so are the pictures that were, you have a whole bunch of pictures in there,
Mhm.
are those, do they cover pretty much both, or just the other?
I
Do they just
apologize
cover
if I,
Riverside Rest Home?
if
It's
I
fine.
did not include pictures of Hyder, I apologize.
I don't
but-
think so, but that's okay.
There's nothing in the Hyder portion, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I think,
Hyder was on that other
yeah,
drawing.
yeah, exactly.
Sure, if any of the delegation's interested, it's clearly visible from a Google Earth or a Google Maps.
Oh, you can
Overhead
see it?
view, you can see the different types of patches that have been done, where they've added fiber, where they've added utilities, where they've repaired things. It's kind of a mess over there.
So you say you're gonna change the slope?
Yeah, the grading of the parking lot, right, there's a lot
So
of
you're gonna
depression.
grind up the old asphalt?
It'll be completely removed, from what I understand.
And
This isn't just a top coating of what's already there. There's some structural stuff there that needs to be taken care of.
And then paving.
should you be going pervious?
I'm sorry?
Which I know is a lot more money.
From what I understand, that facility does not have an MS4 retention pond, so we need to be very careful of what we put down. We need to go in kind for the replacement of what's going on in the parking lot over there.
Yeah, cause it won't be able, the water won't be able to
The
go.
water won't be able to soak down through the pavement into the ground, which would
Correct.
overwhelm the catch
Correct.
basins, which would overwhelm the drainage system, which is.
And you'll
all
create-
we're
Oh,
having now.
oh, really?
Great
Okay.
flooding.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't wanna do that.
Luckily, we're surrounded by swamp over there, so if we can get a lot of that rainwater over towards that. You know, the square footage isn't anywhere near the requirements for an MS4 like we have over at the jail. You know, we have a lot of pavement, we have a lot of roof over there, so we have to have
Yeah.
some sort of retention pond for that stormwater.
Well, I know in wet areas, a lot of times, they want the pervious, so it will filter through the soil
Mhm.
before it gets out into the wetland.
I think maybe we're counting on the wetlands as a filter.
Well,
It's a small parking lot over there comparatively
Is it?
to the
Okay.
rest of the facility. Yeah. All right,
Are
is there any
there
questions on that?
Questions or concerns?
I realize it's a lot of stuff. I really appreciate you guys listening to this and taking it seriously so we can get this taken care of. Great.
Do we have anyone else who's gonna address us, right?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's been very thorough, and I wanna thank everybody who's come in to educate us, inform us, and help us to understand where we are, and where we need to be better. It's been very beneficial. I think I would look now, for a motion to recommend. Yes, I don't even need to finish it. Yes, go ahead.
I recommend we, make a motion to recommend approval with the correction of the server upgrade. Typo.
we do one at a time?
I'll second that.
Do you have a second?
You're gonna do one at a time instead of the whole thing?
Is there any further discussion? Again, this is just one step in our process. It will then go to the executive committee. We'll be reviewing everything again. And,
Okay.
take it from there before it goes to the whole.
Before it comes back. to-
Yeah.
I do have a question, but it's more for Ray.
Yeah, mine's more of a discussion question too, so.
The process, so you go out for a bond, to get this money. But you're not locked in on each item, and that's my concern, that you can bounce around.
No, the motion that you will hear in front of the delegation locks us in to a document. It might not be this document, the delegation might change the document.
Yeah,
Correct, yeah.
It locks us into a document that indicates the costs, you know, that lays out, similar to this document, but it'll include everything, you know, from all the other subcommittees that might be approved. And then, if there's a change in that document of any way, it needs to be done, through the delegation.
oh, that's all. Okay,
We're just recommending our
Mike?
chunk.
cause when we get to like the walk-in, she mentioned about, and I agree with her, she is right. Cooler, and say, for some reason you need to do something else, you can move money around.
We
Oh, yeah.
at least need the permission of the executive committee.
Yeah,
Although honestly speaking, I'd have to check with bond counsel to find out if it's the whole delegation or the executive committee. I don't know that answer. In the past, it just used to be the executive committee.
yeah,
As an example, for those of you that have been on the executive committee for a while, you remember that you allowed us to use $750,000 of money that we had set aside
Correct, to
for.
move it to someplace
to move
else.
someplace
Yeah,
else.
Yeah,
And this is a process we've been through before,
Mhm.
and, it's very thorough, detailed, and it works.
so,
So there are other chances if you have questions or concerns.
yeah, I just wanna say
Yeah, go
something,
ahead.
yeah, just to kind of be on the record for it, so. As you can imagine, when the meeting notice came and then documents came subsequently, which was, you know, even some that just came a handful of days before. Like, there's just no way, right, you know, I wasn't gonna print out 200 pages on one, and so. I looked over a lot of stuff, but not enough, and. My husband is an expert on all this kind of stuff, so he's very helpful in this as well, but, I just. You know, I'm not giving any rubber stamp to anything, because I just don't feel like there's, you know, I love the presentations and I think that's all great. I just, I know it has to go, and I'm on the executive committee, so that's fine. I want us to make sure that this is a big price tag item, and I wanna make sure we're doing our due diligence and all of this stuff as well, so, with everything, but yeah.
And to reassure you, this is just a recommendation to move forward to further, and there'll be other lines.
Perfect, for the review and other people that are looking at it and all of that, so.
Actually, I was really impressed with the stuff he knew.
Okay,
So,
we've had a motion, we've had it seconded, let's raise our hands, all those in favor of moving this forward to the executive committee? Okay. Thank you very, very much. Oh, all those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. Thank you for coming in on this summer day. Really appreciate all your help, Ray. I appreciate all the work you've done with the commission.
honestly speaking,
Thank you all. for
Dougie and
coming
the
in.
department heads,
Oh, I think
it's a process, that we started a few months ago.